Alright, let's move on. So next we are going to talk about string methods in LWC. String methods. Well, this is just the basic foundational ones that we are going to use pretty frequently when developing LWC. So the first one I want to talk about, let's comment it here, includes. So this is a method that tries to find a particular string inside a string. Okay, let's check it by example. So let's make a new variable named address. Okay, or let's just call it my address, so you know it's just a variable. And 123 fake street, for example, Vancouver, BC, V1M 0B5. Okay, now this is the address or my address variable. Now we want to know or check if this address is in Vancouver or not. So to do that, I'm going to use the includes method. So I'm going to say if, right, my address includes Vancouver, right? Oops, yeah. Then I'm going to say console.log. I'm going to say my address, or let's do this string interpolation that we just learned. That would be that, right? Remember, my address is in Vancouver. Close it like that. So if my address, which I have a typo there, includes the words Vancouver, right? It checks if this variable, my address, the value of it, has the word Vancouver in it. If it does, then we know the address is in Vancouver. Therefore, we want to print it out. If not, else, for example, we're gonna copy this and just fix it up like that. Is not in Vancouver. Okay, let's save and see it in action. So what would be the value? It will say 123 fake street Vancouver, BC, V1M0B5 is in Vancouver, because it checks if my address here has the word Vancouver inside of it. Okay, if I refresh this, boom. So 123 fake street Vancouver, BC, V1M0B5 is in Vancouver, right? So if I change this to Langley, okay, and we're checking the word Vancouver, is Vancouver inside of here? It's not, right? So therefore, if I refresh this, it's going to say is not in Vancouver. So that's how this work includes. It's basically checking the string or text you want to check against the variable value, which is my address. So you want to check the word Vancouver. Is it in here? If it is printing true. If it's not, it's going to be false. Okay, so that's the first one. The next one is indexOf. IndexOf, like that. Let's do another example. So let's pretend we want to check a name. Okay, let full name, a person's name. Sometimes a person can have John, Sammy, maybe. So this is, an example. I want to check if this full name has a first name Sammy, right? Which is not, right? So to check that, indexOf, what it does is it's trying to find the first occurrence of a string. Let me type it up. Finds the first occurrence of a string within a string. So what's the goal here? The goal for this particular example, I want to check if Sammy is the first name. So the goal, I want to check all the names and find all the names with Sammy as the first name. Okay, so this is the goal. I want to check all the names and find the names with Sammy as the first name. So for example, the full name is John Sammy, right? Is Sammy inside John Sammy? Yes, it is inside John Sammy. So if I use includes, it will be true, right? Because Sammy is inside this string. So we cannot use include. I want to know if Sammy is the first name or the last name, right? If the name is Sammy Davidson, for example, then it's true. Because Sammy now is the first name, right? So now, how do you do that? You can't use includes because you want to check if Sammy is the first name, which is the first one, like that. Okay. So let's clear this out, otherwise it's going to be confusing. So now, how do you check that? So we're doing an if as well. If full name dot, okay, index of, I want to find the word Sammy. Sammy, right, equals 1. Now, what does that mean? Is Sammy the first in the whole string here? Right? If it is, then console.log, use interpolation, full name, first name. Oh, my bad. I have to use this because it's string interpolation, right? So full name's first name is Sammy. Close the interpolation. Else console.log, let's just copy the whole thing here, is not Sammy. Let's tidy up a bit. Shift tab. There. I'm going to save it. So what are we going to do using the indexOf? We want to find all the Sammy's first name. So if a name starts with Sammy, right, then it's the first name. If it doesn't start with Sammy, then it's the last name. Okay, so we cannot use includes because it will just basically check if Sammy is in here, right? Now we want to make sure Sammy is not just in the string, but it has to start with Sammy. So I want the index of Sammy is the first index, the first occurrence. Okay, so what I do is, if the full name index of Sammy is the first one, and then you do the first name is Sammy. If it's not the first one, it's not Sammy. So with this example, it's going to say it's not Sammy. So it's going to say John Sammy first name is not Sammy, it's John, right? Because the index is not the first one, it's the like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. It's the sixth one. Okay, so let's just take a look here. If I refresh, John Sammy first name is not Sammy, it's John, right? It's not Sammy. But if I change this to Sammy Davidson, for example, it will be true. Now Sammy is the first index, right? Because it's the first occurrence of this whole string. Now we're going to say Sammy Davidson's first name, or this one, Sammy Davidson's first name is Sammy. Okay, let's save that. And refresh. Boom. So Sammy Davidson's first name is not Sammy. It is Sammy. Why? Because there is 2M here. Okay, if I put 2M, this is Sammy, it has to exactly match the same Sammy. So if I flip, now it's going to say, wait. Alright, I forgot. Index always start with 0, not 1. Okay, so this is an index of, like an array. You remember in arrays index? Now the method indexOf is actually for an array, and this is treating this whole string as arrays of letters. Okay, so it should be 0, the first index. So if it's 0, I'm going to say, so Sammy Davidson's first name is Sammy. Okay, so if I go back to John Sammy here, John Sammy, it should say it's not, John Sammy first name is not Sammy. Okay, so always remember, index always start with 0. The first index is actually 0, not 1. Okay, so that's the first couple of string methods. First one is includes, the second one is indexOf. So make sure you've tried this code yourself. Please do, if you haven't done so already. Do the includes one and do the indexOf one, just like I did. Okay, now moving on is starts with, the same thing. Okay, so starts with, like that. Well, you've guessed it, start with finds starts with, right? So it's pretty self-explanatory. If a string starts with something, then it says true. If not, is false. So if you want to check full name John Sammy, you can also check the first name using the start with. So starts with, okay, starts with Sammy equals true, or 1 or true. Then the first name is Sammy. Okay, so this will say it's not Sammy because it's John, right? So now you can do it this way. Full name, check if it starts with Sammy. If it's true, then execute this. If it's not true, execute this. So because John doesn't start with Sammy, it's going to print this one, not Sammy. Okay, let's save and reload. So John Sammy first name is not Sammy. So if I change this to Sammy Davidson and make sure it's safe, refresh that. So Sammy Davidson first name is Sammy. Okay, starts with, same thing like that. It's pretty much the same method of trying to find the first name, but the use is different. It's totally different, right? One is indexOf to find an occurrence in a string, like which index the string is in. This one is just checking starts with. All right. So let's move on. I'm gonna clear this out. Next up is slice. Slice. Like slicing a piece of cake or slicing a pie. Right? Let's slice it. Slice is so what it does is it extracts a part of a string. Extracts part of a string. Okay, how do we use it in LWC? For example, we have a Salesforce org URL. Salesforce URL equals HTTPS, right? Your org.mysalesforce.com, right? That's your URL, Salesforce URL. And then you have your record URL, record URL, which is something like this. And then you have your record ID, something like this, right? So you might get this from a system variable where you can grab your Salesforce URL, and you will get this from your referrer or anything that you're coding with. And then you want to say, with these two, I want to get the record ID, right? So how do you get the record ID? You use slice. Okay, so in order to use this, I will also use the string length. Okay, so how do I get the record ID? If I want to get the record ID, let record ID equals. So first off, I want to slice the record URL. Okay, so slice method has two or accepts two parameters. First, where do you start slicing? So you have to define where do you want to start slicing the variable. Where? I want to start slicing it here, right? Slice it here. So basically where, how long? Okay? Where? You want to start slicing from here, right? Because I want to get this, right? So I don't want to count how long this is. That would not a good thing to code. Like how many, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You don't want to count that like that, right? So I want to know what is the length of the Salesforce URL. This length. So what I do, the where part is the Salesforce URL dot length. Okay, that will get me the length of the Salesforce URL. So start from there. So meaning you will start from there. And then how long? Count 16 characters. Why 16? Because all Salesforce ID or record ID is 16 characters long. So how long? I want 16, please. Why? Because I know it. Salesforce have 16 characters record ID. So this is just an example. This is just an example. So now, after I slice my record URL, so slice starts with this part, okay, and then get 16 characters. Now if I console.log and then interpolate that with a backtick, the record ID is record ID. Let's try that. I'm going to save this and see what happens. Boom. Whoops, we got a quick error there. Slice is not defined. Oh, my bad. What are you slicing, right? What are you slicing? You have to slice this dot slice. So this is what we are slicing. If you want to slice something, where is the cake to slice? Where is the cake to slice? I don't bring the cake to slice. Now this is the cake we want to slice with this pattern there. Let's try it again. Salesforce URL length is not a function. Let's see. Did I put it? Okay. There's actually no need for the parentheses there, and I also notice slice accepts two parameters. The first one is where it starts to slice it, and then where it ends. Okay, if you don't put where it ends, it's going to just take the rest of it. So we can actually just take the rest of it. So it's going to be slicing here and just take the rest of it like so. All right, so I'm going to save that and flip back here, refresh, boom, there we go. So the record ID is that. All right, so that's how you slice it. So the slice accepts two parameters, the start of the slice and the end of the slice. If you want to define the end of the slice, if you don't define it, it's just going to take the rest of the string. If you define it, it's gonna say how many characters. Like if I put, for example, the length plus 3 characters, it's just going to take these 3 characters here. Okay, let's take a look. See, just 500, right? If I'm going to say, I want to take 16 characters, please, then it's going to take 16 characters of the whole ID. Boom, there. So if I don't say anything, it's just going to take everything behind the whole thing here. Okay, so that. Okay, so that's how you can slice with JavaScript. Okay, moving on is we're gonna discuss toUpperCase and toLowerCase. So let's clear this out. So next is toUpperCase. So let's do toLowerCase first. toLowerCase converts a string to lowercase. Okay, so what's the use case scenario here? So the one that I can think of is to format addresses, for example. So for example, you have variables, and people are inputting it, and you have messy data. For example, the street name equals like 123 fake street. That's ugly, right? The fake is like that, the street is like a capital S, and then you have a city, it's calling a new city. Some people just enter messy data. And then state, for example, California, like that, right? So this looks ugly, right? So because it looks ugly, I want to fix it. So I want to just make all first letters or first occurrences a capital letter, but the rest I want all lowercase. So how do you do that? Okay, actually this is too complex to just learning the foundation. I'm gonna take this out. Let's just make it a one-word thing. So let's say I want to change this to California, right? I don't want it to be California like that ugly. I don't want it to be California like that. I want it nice, California. For example, just an example how you can use the lowercase. So what you do is I am just going to do, if I do this, state equals state dot to lowercase, right? Like that. And I'm just going to go console.log state. I'm going to save that. This will print California all in lowercase, right? So if I refresh this, there, California. But I want to change the first letter to a capital letter C. How can I do that? Okay, so we need to play around a bit here to make this happen. So first we convert this to all lowercase, so all California with lowercase. Now we're going to play around. So I'm going to say state. We're going to use another function actually. I'm going to say character at index 0. The first one here. Oops. This first character is char at 0. We want to change that to uppercase, please. Okay, you got that? So this will mean it's just the letter C with a capital, make it capital, right? So this line makes California becomes all lowercase, California, right? Now we want to make this like that, right? So the first index here, make it uppercase. So we just got the first C letter, and then we're gonna add plus at the California without the C. So we want to slice it, slice and dice. What do we want to slice? The state. Okay, state. Okay, this state, slice the first letter like so. So slice the letter C because we just get the letter C from here. Okay, character at 0, which is this C, and make it uppercase, so it's going to be uppercase, and then plus the rest of the character, slice the first one. Now we're actually playing around, right? So if I console.log state, this will print California like that. So I'm going to save that, and we are going to refresh. Come on, save. Refresh this puppy. Whoops. char add. Oh, my bad again. State.char add. The 0th index of the state, right? My bad. Okay, save that. So pay attention to this, okay? And I'm gonna refresh this. Boom. California with a capital C. So that's how you play around with these string methods. The next one is toUpperCase, which is the same thing. So we've used this already. Basically, it's converting all to uppercase. Okay, so let's just make another example to uppercase. So for example, in Canada, our postal code is all in uppercase. Like it's supposed to be V1M0B5. That's the right formatting of a postal code. But sometimes people are lazy. They just put V1M whatever 0B5. So basically you want to do what? State equals, not state. In Canada we have province, right? So province equals province dot to uppercase. Like that. And console.log province. Let's just try that. Okay. I'm saving and flip. There. It's nice and tidy. V1M0B5 all in uppercase. So that's toUpperCase. Okay. So the last one I want to talk about is trim. Okay. So trim. What is trim? Trim cleans out the white spaces from the beginning or end of a string. So for example, if you're collecting passwords, right, on a form, and some people type or copy and paste the password, so they have some random cool, well, that's not so cool, whatever, like that, right, password, but they copy and paste it from their email or whatever, and they put some space there. So if I console, accidentally they put some space when they're copying, right? So if I do console.log password, that would have the white space on them. Well, you can't see it though if you actually print it here, because you don't see the white space there, right? But you know what I'm talking about. But if you do trim, you trim the password, what it does is basically it just remove this white space there. So when you're checking the password or whatever, the white space that's there or there, that's going to be trimmed. All right. So that's basically the foundations of just some of the string methods available in JavaScript, which we use pretty regularly in LWC development. So that's quite a lot of, not a lot, but quite a few of methods. Please do decode your own. Type it with your own 10 fingers, as I said, and just type it and type it and type it until you get what each method does. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bada bing, bada boom. Hit that subscribe button and explore new trailhead grounds and learn to implement the most useful and popular apps on the Salesforce App Exchange. And do yourself a favor, like this video, and you'll be surprised on how much more you understand when watching this same video after liking it. Don't take my word. Watch this one more time after you like the video and see it for yourself. Bada bing, bada boom.